Hey, third graders, it's Miss Williamson here. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. Today for math, we're going to be continuing to talk about measurement. And instead of measuring mass and volume like we did last week, we're going to start learning how can we measure distance or length. How long is my pencil? How far away am I from my front door? Those are distance questions. So we can measure distance with feet, miles if something's really far away. We can measure distance with inches and yards and meters. But today our focus is going to be with inches. And our learning target for today is I can use a ruler to measure objects and lengths to the nearest half inch and quarter inch. 1/4 and 1/4 are the same thing. So I have two rulers here on my sheet. And the first one looks like it's partitioned differently than the bottom one. I'm kind of getting flashbacks or remembering our discussions about number lines and how we can partition number lines. So I'm going to let you look at a few tools that people use in their everyday lives in order to measure distance or inches. I have tape measures and I have a ruler. Now, these tools are partitioned into really small pieces. But in the third grade, you just have to know how to measure distance to the nearest 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/4 inch. These I can see are partitioned into a lot smaller pieces. So let's start out by looking at a few of my paper rulers. My first ruler, ruler A, this one right here. How is this one partitioned? Well, I see tick marks, and I'm noticing that there are whole numbers at every tick mark. So if I'm starting at this end of my ruler, and this is always where 0 is. It's always the start or beginning or far edge, the far left edge of your ruler. I'm noticing that this ruler is partitioned into whole inches. But B looks a little different. Each hole, if I just zoom my attention into the first hole, this hole is partitioned or cut into 2 equal pieces, 1, 2. So I can label each one as a half. Let's look at this one, ruler C. I'm going to zoom my attention just to look at how is my first hole partitioned. Well, I'm seeing that from 0 to 1, I have 4 equal pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I know that when a hole is cut evenly into 4 equal pieces, each piece is 1/4. So if I have 1/4 right here, then from 0 to this spot is going to be 1/4. If I go from this spot, the beginning, to this spot on my ruler, I'm going to get to 2/4. This is exactly how we did number lines. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. And I can keep on labeling the rest of the ruler. D is cut into even tinier pieces. D is cut, each hole is cut into 8 equal pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whew, that's a lot of cuts. But the good news is that you won't have to learn how to do that until 5th grade. So let's start out with measuring some objects. So again, if I were to label my halves, a ruler that's cut into halves, I can put 1/2 under each tally mark. But I think I've got the hang of this, so I'm going to use this ruler instead. I'm going to start out by measuring an inchworm. And boys and girls, when you're measuring length or distance of an object, you want that object to start at 0, or the very left side of your ruler. You can't start it right there. You must start it all the way at the edge. So here's my start point, and all the way over here is my end point. I ended right here. And this tally mark is in between 2 and 3. So I know that this whole inch is partitioned into 2 equal pieces. So I can label that 1/2. So I can say that my inchworm is 2.5 inches long. 2.5 inches long. Let's measure something else. Ooh, I have a whale here that I want to measure. So again, I have to start by measuring at 0 and line it up. And whoop, we ended right here in between 5 and 6. I know that this whole inch is partitioned into 2 equal pieces, so I can say that 1/2 is right here. And I notice that this whale is 5.5 inches long. 5.5 inches long. But what if something doesn't end at the half mark? What if it ends in between the halves? What if it ends in between a half and a whole? Well, I am going to need to use a different ruler. I'm going to need to use a ruler that's cut into quarters. So if I labeled a ruler that's cut into quarters, I would get 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. I could write 4/4 under this. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, and so on. So let's measure this snail. So I line up the left side of the snail at 0, and then I'm going to write on my ruler where the snail ended. I can see that the snail ended right here. But the snail isn't just 3/4 inches long. It's two holes and 3/4. So 2 holes and 3/4 inches long. Let's do a couple more just for practice. I have a rainbow here. Let's measure the rainbow. I'm going to start at the very end, and I see that the rainbow stops at 1/4. But the rainbow isn't just 1/4 of an inch long. It's 2 1/4 inches. And I've got one more thing I'd like to measure, but let's use the one that doesn't have the fractions labeled. Let's see if we can do it. I'm going to line it up at that end, and I'm going to mark on my ruler where the dolphin ends, and I'm seeing that the dolphin ends here. Well, I know it's not 3 whole inches and it's not 4 whole inches, And I can see that my 1 whole inch is partitioned into 4 equal pieces. So I know I'm working with fourths. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. So my dolphin is 3 3/4 inches long. 3 3/4 inches long. Now it's going to be your turn to work on a few problems on your own.